Hello, everybody. All right, welcome to the Mikestand. Hope everybody's having a good week. Of course, today is Wednesday, January the 15th, 2025, which of course means it's Hump Day. We're, of course, 5 days away from Inauguration Day of President-elect Trump becoming the 47th president of the United States, the second individual to be elected to two non-consecutive terms. As we're gonna just chat it up a bit for a few minutes while we wait for more people to show up. If you haven't already, if you guys can help out by liking and sharing the stream, see if we can get some more friendly people in here to engage, that'd be appreciated. Also, if anything here grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions. I'll try to answer the questions to the best of my ability. I also just found something out as I was passing by the school near my house earlier today. So I guess this Monday will be the observance of Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday as well. So looks like we're going to have both Inauguration Day and MLK Day. So have a double your pleasure, double the fun, as it were. So, anyways, let's see. So yeah, so today I had kind of a busy day. Had to go to my doctor's appointment, kind of get checked up and all that. Everything's more or less fine. Just got some tests to take care of. Let's see. So then got home and kind of try to get caught up as much as I could on my subscriptions, and then of course, eventually got my show set up and got my cartoons in. So yeah, today I was watching a lot of the stuff from came out in October of 1932, and there was like I think there was like three Flip the Frog cartoons from Celebrity Pictures Productions for MGM at the time. There was I think there was a couple Betty Boop and a Scream song from Fleischer. There was a Scrappy cartoon from Columbia. Columbia was a little bit busy. It had Scrappy and a Crazy Cat cartoon. But it's kind of funny. Throughout much of 1932, thus far, from what I've seen, Walter Lantz has been somewhat absent. Haven't seen a lot of Oswald, you know, um, that year. So, but I did also see a Silly Symphony as well. Probably the last black and white Silly Symphony. Um, to be produced is by the end towards the end of 1932, Disney was being distributed by United Artists. So now you had Disney being distributed by United Artists. You had Leon Schlesinger harmonizing being distributed by Warner Brothers. You had Celebrity Productions being distributed by MGM. Then Buren Productions with their human Tom and Jerry cartoons were being done by RKO Radio Pictures. Columbia was doing Charles Mintz stuff, Scrappy and Crazy Cat. So that's basically what everything was at with that. See, now we're just past the 4 minute mark. So I guess good time to start talking about what's on tap for tonight. So due to the fact that we did have some issues yesterday, and hopefully we won't have them today, but so today I decided so today we'll focus in on the Neil Gaiman story I was going to do yesterday, talking about I guess an expose that somebody did. We'll go over the article from Bleeding Fool, and then tomorrow, of course, we'll be going over Indie Comic Showcase. So we got some stuff planned for the next couple of days. Of course, we'll have the wrestling. After that, we'll have the wrestling wrap up, and then the This Day in Each History segments. Obviously, with the wrestling wrap up, we'll go over last night's NXT. Look at some upcoming news for them. Also, of course, we'll look ahead to tonight's Dynamite. see what's happening there. As of course, this coming weekend, this Sunday, there'll be a couple of events going on. Of course, TNA will be having its Genesis pay-per-view this Sunday, and New Japan will be having their 40th anniversary 40th anniversary Yuji Nagata show. I think it's called Blue Justice or something like that. So it will be, but that's stuff, and then of course we'll look back at this day in each history. So with that being said, it's already past the 5-minute mark now, so I'm going to go ahead and pull up the article we're going to go over tonight. And as I said, if you haven't already, you guys can help out by liking and sharing the stream. See if we get some more. See if we can get some more friendly people to engage. That'd be appreciated. Also, if anything here grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions. I'll try to answer the questions to the best of my ability. So let me just do this real quick, and we will get going here. All right, so let's get into this article, and I have it up because of the fact I realized that it was going to be the reason I decided to do this with the fact, not just the fact that we're running low on time yesterday with all the other stuff going on, but also because of the fact this one I knew was going to probably take a good chunk of time, so that's why we moved this one to today. So let's get to this article then from Bleeding Fool. Unraveling myths. Neil Gaiman's abuse allegations go mainstream, threaten to rewrite his story. Article by Jameson Ashley, published today, or I guess published today. Even though it was even though it came out yesterday, but so let's get into this then. New York, call me master. Okay, this I guess is I guess from an expose, a book that book is being done about it. So update: Neil Gaiman responds to this story at the end of this article. So I think that update came out this morning or something like that. But we will. So let's get into this. So we've been closely following the Neil Gaiman sex scandals for many months, but it's still both shocking and yet strangely validating to see major outlets finally shining a spotlight on the disturbing allegations against the renowned fantasy author. After numerous comic news outlets, including The Beast and Bleeding Cool, not to be confused with the one we're using right now, Bleeding Fool, totally ignored the claims of sexual abuse by several women and continue to do so. New York Mag cover story, that's I guess what we just saw up there, and its sourcing of a new Vulture article by Leila Shapiro is dragging into the light a series of deeply troubling accusations that paint a dark picture of the man behind the beloved works like The Sandman and American Gods. That's the modern Sandman, of course. At the center of these allegations is Scarlett Pavlovich, a former nanny for Gaiman and his ex-wife Amanda Palmer. Pavlovich's account is harrowing, detailing multiple instances of alleged sexual assault and coercion. 12. I don't know what the 12 is for, but she claims that Gaiman, then 61, first assaulted her in 2022 when she was just 22. So a 61-year-old and a 22-year-old. In an outdoor bathtub in his New Zealand home, The alleged abuse continued over several weeks, with Pavlovich describing increasingly degrading and non-consensual sexual encounters. His quote-unquote open marriage to Palmer abruptly ended during that period. Hmm. And then I got a tweet here on a day like today. It's worth saying. So Neil Gaiman was. I think they're pointing out here with this by putting this tweet up. Neil Gaiman was one of those who came out and basically was was part of the Me Too movement and was basically saying yeah, believe women no matter the cost. Just believe women without really critically thinking about what's going on. Hey, Rick, thanks for popping in. Again, another friendly reminder, if you guys can help out by liking and sharing the stream, see if we can get some more friendly people in here to engage. I'd be appreciated. Also, if anything here grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions. I'll try to answer the questions to the best of my ability. So as we continue on here with this, what's particularly disturbing is that Pavlovich is far from alone in her accusations. The Vulture article mentions 8 women in total who have come forward with allegations of assault, rape, coercion, or mistreatment by Gaiman. These claims span decades, suggesting a long-standing pattern of behavior that stands in stark contrast to Gaiman's public persona as a progressive feminist ally and champion of women's voices in literature. Which is kind of what we were... And this has been talked about by many commentators as well, that a lot of times these male feminists, usually you go digging a little bit, you find that maybe they're not quite as virtuous as they want you to believe. So there's that. Now, of course, as I understand it, he has denied the allegations, and granted, I think this might be the one, the one story here, the Pavlovich story here is the one that's actually being investigated by police in New Zealand, because that's where that happened, as I understand it. So, now, granted, he hasn't been found guilty, and he's claimed his innocence, so he still is considered innocent until proven guilty. Contrary to what a lot of these Me Too people want you to believe and want you to practice. But as many Christians know, many Christians remember the story of Potiphar's wife, and what kind of trouble that can lead everybody into. So, anyways, let's see. I'm going to go off camera for a quick moment here to take care of something, but I'll put some music on while I'm gone. Be right back. All right. Anyways, I'm back now, so sorry about that. Just had to take care of something real quick. Let's go ahead and continue on with this article here. The allegations first surfaced last summer in a podcast series titled, quote, Master, the allegations against Neil Gaiman, unquote, produced by Tortoise Media. Since then, even more women have come forward, expanding the timeline of alleged misconduct across 5 decades. One woman claims Gaiman assaulted her in Florida in 2005, while another describes an aggressive, unwanted advance in the 1980s. Gaiman, for his part, has denied all allegations of non-consensual encounters. His representatives have called the claims, quote, false and abhorrent, unquote, insisting that all interactions were consensual. Now, I don't know if they will address one of the allegations in here was that he basically, threatened to kick a woman and her daughter out if she did not comply, and so that was coerced, but it was, she still ended up making the choice to do so. So, but we'll see what happens there. However, the sheer number of accusers and the consistency of their stories raise serious questions about the author's conduct. These women's stories are filled with grim and gruesome details, particularly one from Kendra Stout, who met him in a signing for a reading in Florida. Shapiro writes, Kendra Stout was 18 when, in 2003, she drove 4.5 hours to Fort Lauderdale, Florida, to see Gaiman read from Endless Nights, a follow-up to The Sandman. She met him in the signing line. Gaiman sent her long emails and bought a web camera so they could chat on video. All right. In 2007, Gaiman and Stout took a trip to the Cornish countryside. On their last night there, Stout developed a UTI. For those of you who may not know what a UTI is urinary tract infection. They can be that had gotten so bad she couldn't sit down. She told Gaiman they could fool around, but that any penetration would be too painful to bear. Quote, it was a big hard no, unquote. She says, quote, I told him, in smaller quote, you cannot put anything in my vagina or I will die, unquote. Gaiman flipped her over on the bed, she says, and attempted to penetrate her with his fingers. She told him, quote unquote, no. He stopped for a moment, and then he penetrated her with his penis. At that point, she tells me, quote, I just shut down, unquote. She lay on the bed until he was finished. In parentheses, this past October, she filed a police report alleging he raped her. So, now, again, that is something he is, I think, under investigation in several jurisdictions. The article contains many more disturbing details. And then Valerie DeRosio in her tweet said, one of the most prominent male feminists in the comic book industry, making a young woman literally lick her own feces, is pretty much the accurate symbolic representation. All right. The impact of these allegations on Gaiman's career and legacy still remains to be seen. He's had appearances canceled, and Netflix has opted not. They forgot to put a word in, to not renew projects with him, and hid him from their last round of the Sandman promotions. However, with over 50 million books sold worldwide and numerous successful adaptations of his work, Gaiman has long been a titan in the fantasy genre. We've seen other high-profile cases during the Me Too era, and most prove that even the mightiest can fall when confronted with credible accusations of sexual misconduct. Let's see now. Let me see if there's anybody saying anything. All right. Again, feel free to comment and or ask questions if anything here grabs your attention. Um, and if you haven't already, you guys can help out by liking and sharing the stream. See if we get some more friendly people in here to engage. That'd be appreciated as well. So, with that being said, let's get back to the article here. As this story continues to unfold, it's crucial that we listen to and support the women who have bravely come forward. If true, their courage in speaking out against a powerful and influential figure is commendable. It's equally important that we as a society grapple with the dissonance between public personas and private actions and work towards creating safer environments for all, especially in industries where power imbalances are prevalent. Now, Jameson, the guy who wrote the article here, who said that he makes a good point there. If credible, if credible, then yes, you should support the women. If the accusations are proven credible, then you should support the women. But key point there being proven credible. Okay? You got to also take it with a grain of salt if, for whatever reason, they can't prove them as credible. Because, I know people are not going to like what I'm about to say here, but women are just as human as men and are capable of lying and deceit, and and women are capable of just as much evil as men are. Okay, there's no imbalance there. But if the accusations are credible, then yes, the women should be supported. But you should still take it, you should still think critically and not just automatically, just because a woman says she was assaulted does not mean you should automatically believe she was assaulted. So let's see now. Head get in. So whatever the outcome of these accusations, and whether or not the comic news press finally picks this story up, Neil Gaiman's sex scandals should serve as a stark reminder that even beloved cultural icons are not beyond reproach, and that the fight for accountability and justice in cases of sexual assault is still far from over. And here's the update. Here's the update that they were talking about. I think this is Neil Gaiman's response to this article, I believe. So Neil Gaiman has broken his silence on these sexual assault allegations against him. In a statement on his blog, Gaiman acknowledges past mistakes in his relationships, but firmly denies any non-consensual sexual activity. Quote, I was obviously careless with people's hearts and feelings, and that's something that I really deeply regret, unquote. Gaiman admits, but still maintains, quote, I don't accept that there was any abuse. To repeat, I have never engaged in non-consensual sexual activity with anyone, unquote. Which, of course, does get back into the whole he said, she said argument, right? Let's see now. Gaiman further states, quote, some of the horrible stories now being told simply never happened, while others have been so distorted from what actually took place that they bear no relationship to reality, unquote. He expresses willingness to take responsibility for his missteps, but refuses to admit to actions he claims he didn't commit. His legal team has responded to specific allegations. They vehemently deny Scarlett Pavlovich's account of a sexual encounter in a hotel room, while Gaiman's son was present, calling it, quote, quote, false, not to mention deplorable, unquote. So, Neil Gaiman's, now granted, there's bias there because obviously, being his son's going to support his father, obviously. But if he was actually there and said that nothing like that happened, then that's at least some more concrete evidence that maybe Gaiman is the one who is right in that specific incident. But they also refute Liz Walmer's similar story, claiming she initiated the relationship with Gaiman, and blame Gaiman's ex-wife Amanda Palmer for instigating these claims, since the two are in divorce proceedings. The allegations have already impacted Gaiman's professional projects, and the United Nations High Commissioner of Refugees, UNHCR, in parentheses there, has also weighed in, stating they are, quote, assessing, in brackets here, Tortoise's detailed reporting, unquote, to determine Gaiman's continued status as a goodwill ambassador. It's kind of funny. A lot of these woke people, a lot of these leftists, they sit there and they scream and call out the right for a lot of stuff, right? Which sometimes it's proven true, sometimes it's proven false, or proven not true, And then they end up getting called out on it. So, it kind of just goes to show you, right? Renowned literary titan J.K. Rowling has drawn parallels between the reactions to these allegations and those initially made against Harvey Weinstein, criticizing what she perceives as a muted response from the literary world. So in the tweet here, she says, the literary crowd that had a hell of a lot to say about Harvey Weinstein before he was convicted has been strangely muted in its response to multiple accusations against Neil Gaiman from young women who'd never met yet, as with Weinstein, tell remarkably similar stories. As the situation unfolds, the comic book and literary community watches closely. This is kind of a big story. Neil Gaiman is one of the biggest names in comics history, and if he did actually do this, then yes, he should be held accountable. But as with everybody, he's still innocent until proven guilty. A lot of this stuff can come back to he said, she said, and all that, So, all right. So with that, then, we're gonna go ahead and I'm gonna go ahead and start to move on to go right ahead and move into the wrestling wrap up now, as we're gonna talk. We're gonna talk a little bit about what happened on last night's NXT. Look forward to tonight's Dynamite. So why don't we get into that then? Let me go and grab the results there. All right. So on last night's NXT, some of the news that happened on last. Okay, so the opening match saw Shotzi defeat Stephanie McCur in a number one contenders match for the women's North American title. Now, initially, Stephanie McCur had won a four-way match the last week in Los Angeles to become the number one contender to Fallon Henley's North American title. I don't know why they had her do another one here, but what happened here was apparently Fallon Henley interfered in the match and helped Shotzi defeat Vakur, basically stealing Vakur's number one contendership away from her. You know, Kerr had defeated Cora Jade, Kalani Jordan, and Lola Vice last week to become the number one contender, and then Shotzi challenged her and won. Now Shotzi is the number one contender to the NXT Women's Championship. Ethan Page defeated Dante Chen in just under a minute. And a number one contendership for the WWE Women's Tag Team Championship. Metaphor of Jakara Jackson and Lash Legend defeated the former WWE Women's Champions, the Unholy Union of Isla Dawn and Alba Fire. And another interesting little side note in regards to Metaphor, as it was shown on Twitter, I believe. I guess Charlotte Flair shared a picture of Charlotte Flair was backstage at NXT last night. Shared a picture of her getting together with Metaphor and Jackson and Legend. They kind of were saying hi. It was believed that Charlotte Flair was there to pretty much say hi to talent and all that. Obviously, was not part of the show, but did go there. So also Cora Jade defeated Kalani Jordan in just over 5 minutes, 5 minutes 12 in the singles match. During that match, as they panned to the crowd, TNA World Women's Knockouts Champion Masha Slamovich made an appearance, hinting at another possible TNA NXT crossover. Now, of course, this back here in 2024, we of course had some crossovers, as you saw. Jordan Grace, Joe Hendry, the Rascals all make appearances on NXT from TNA, and then of course you had some TNA talent like Tatum Paxley, Sol Ruka, Brinley Reese all make appearances on TNA programming as well. So, and there's also been some talk, of course, as it looks like Jordan Grace is possibly on her way out of TNA. She's fulfilling the last of her contractual obligations coming up this Sunday at Genesis with her match with Tessa Blanchard. We talked about all that, of course. While she is said to not be fond of that idea, she still will. Apparently, they still have her slated to put Blanchard over, as it looks like WWE is, of course, looking to bring Jordan Grace in, whether or not she's going to start off in NXT and or move on to the main, the one of the main roster branches. We'll wait to see. And it's also, as we talked about last week too, it was also talked about that Blanchard was also being looked at by WWE to possibly come in. So, and then other news, of course, there is no heat. Initially, there was reported some heat by some of the talent backstage because they felt Penta on Monday went a little long. That has since been disputed and proven false. As most people were generally happy for his debut, on Monday Night Raw. So now with all that, of course, now we're of course done with. And the main event from last night's NXT saw Axiom and Nathan Frazier defend the NXT tag team titles over Out of the Mud of Nima and Lucian Price, Bronco Nima and Lucian Price, who of course had won, I think, a tag team battle royal last week or a couple weeks ago to become the number one contenders to the NXT tag team championships. So with that, now that we've looked back to last night, of course, let's look ahead to tonight's Dynamite. Maximum Carnage tonight. So on tonight's Maximum Carnage show, as they continue to build towards Grand Slam Australia, I believe. Kenny Omega is set to take on Brian Cage in a one-on-one match. In a six-man tag match, the Hurt Syndicate of Shelton Benjamin, Bobby Lashley, and MVP will be taking on AEW World Tag Team Champions Private Party and former Ring of Honor World Champion Mark Briscoe. In a women's world title number one contendership Casino Gauntlet match, Chris Statlander is set to take part. She'll be the first entrant in there, with a number of other women to winner of which will become the number one contender, will get a shot at Mariah May coming up at Grand Slam Australia. Christian Cage is set to take on Hook in a singles match, and then Jon Moxley will be defending the AEW World title against Powerhouse Hobbs, who won the Casino Gauntlet match last week to earn that shot. So that's all that we have for the wrestling wrap up. So now what we're going to do is we're going to move on to the I look through this stuff here. 85, 2020, I think 1925, and then this one is 1995. All right, so let me just do one more thing here, and then we will all right, so today is Wednesday, January the 15th, 2025. So we're going to take a look back at this day in Neach history. So the first stop we're going to make is we're going to go back 100 years ago. As on this date, 100 years ago, as soon as I pull it, I'm able to find the thing here and pull it up. On this date 100 years ago, back in 1925, Walt Disney's Alice the Toreador and Pat Sullivan's Felix All Puzzled both premiered in movie theaters on this date back in 1925. So 100 years ago today, Walt Disney Productions' Alice the Toreador, part of the Alice comedies, and Pat Sullivan's Felix All Puzzle, part of the Felix the Cat silent shorts of the 1920s, both premiered on this date back in 1925, so 100 years ago today. With that, we now get ready to move ahead to 1985. Okay. Okay, so on this date in 1985, which was 40 years ago today, the 70th issue of Cerebus the Aardvark from Canada's Aardvark-Vanaheim Incorporated went on sale on newsstands on this date back in 40 years ago today. Cerebus, the 70th issue of Cerebus the Aardvark from Aardvark-Vanaheim from up in Canada went on sale on newsstands on this date back in 1985, 40 years ago today. Next up on this date, moving ahead to 1995, 30 years ago today. On this date, 30 years ago today, Nippon Animation's Romeo and the Black Brothers, in Japanese, Romeo no Aoi Sora, or Romeo's Blue Skies, premiered on Japanese television on Fuji TV specifically on this date back in 1995. So 30 years ago today, Nippon Animation's Romeo's Black Brothers, Romeo and the Black Brothers, known in Japan as Romeo no Aoi Sora, premiered on Fuji TV on this date back in 1995, 30 years ago today. And finally, on this date in 2020, we have a passing. On this date, 5 years ago, in the world of professional wrestling, Wade Douglas Bowles, known better to wrestling fans as Rocky Johnson, passed away at the age of 75. Of course, most fans today know him as The Rock's father, but Rocky Johnson himself had quite a bit of a career as well, being, of course, a former WWF World Tag Team Champion, as well as being holding multiple territorial titles, particularly throughout the southeastern section of the United States. Held titles for NWA Florida, Tennessee area, particularly for Memphis and for like CWA. Hey, Rex, I'm going to show. Thanks for dropping in, my friend. We went over Neil Gaiman tonight, but anyway, so on this date 5 years ago today, Rocky Johnson passed away at the age of 75. So with that, I do thank everybody for being here. I hope everybody enjoyed the show. Hope everybody found it informative. We'll be back here tomorrow with more Niche News, of course. And now, of course, this Sunday, I will have Rick Piper joining me as we will be looking at comics that went on sale in April 1940. This Sunday, we'll be looking over books that went on sale from Lev Gleason. So with that, I thank everybody for being here, and I hope to see everybody back here tomorrow. Bye.